And welcome to the daily space weather, folks. Starting things out looking at the sun here in 304 angstroms. By the way, thanks to our new subscribers, our latest patron. Thanks for being an associate producer of the show. We see some filaments there in the northwest as well as the southwest. Otherwise, pretty low solar activity. We did see a 6.0 magnitude earthquake kicked off at the same time that the phi angle shifted. We'll get to it in a minute. First, we're going to look at the colorized magnetogram. And yes, I showed you that on purpose. RxJ185635-3754. We'll get to that toward the end of the video. We don't see any kind of sunspots. Magnetic activity is not looking particularly complex. By the way, if you like the song, check it out at soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. It's linked below the video. This particular one's called Unified Theory 3, as we just like to see one. Unified Theory of Physics, that is. Here's a little field analysis in 171 angstroms / magnetogram. Courtesy HelioViewer. And let's zoom in on that spot right there. A little bit of magnetic complexity down there. You can see some looping. And there's a magnetogram fade. HelioViewer.org. And let's look at more data here. Space Weather Prediction Center. X-ray flux is totally flatlined at something like A7 levels. A7.9. And we saw this earthquake kick off right as the phi angle shifted back. So right around 5 UTC, I believe it was, out in the Aleutian Islands, we saw a 6 magnitude earthquake there at about a 25 kilometer depth. Solar wind data is phi angle at 323 degrees. And we did see a dip in the solar wind density at that same moment there. So we saw this sudden uptick followed by some phi angle shifting. Probably a small coronal mass ejection, folks. It's got all the proper components. Anyway, it didn't have any effect on the KP index, and since then the solar wind densities dropped down to 4.23 protons per cubic centimeter and 333 kilometers per second. And by the way, if you're wondering what that is in miles per hour, we'll get to the conversion factors in a bit. There's the data from the ACE-CRAFT spacecraft, and it's looking corroborative. Magnetosphere movies are not looking particularly exciting, just a steady flow for the most part, as we did not personally view those shifts in the density, as there would have been big spikes. Perhaps we'll look at archiving all of this data at a later time. Maybe leave a computer running and screen rip it. Who knows? It could happen. Now this thing refreshed, we're going to let it play all the way through. Before we look at the geospace ground magnetic perturbations. Looking a little bit closer to home. And not a lot going on in terms of induced current. The main changes in the Earth's B field are over the Canadian North Pole right now. And you'll see that activate a little bit there as the northeastern U.S. gets inundated. I got to turn around yesterday as I drove directly into a freezing rainstorm near Hamburg, PA. I turned around and there was indeed ice on the road. Let's get back to data. 10.7 centimeter radio flux at 71. Just on or above the orange line we drew in for your visual convenience. GOES magnetometer is looking pretty smooth here, and you can see where that little phi angle shift happened there. dropping the magnetometer for a moment, and the disparity between the two spacecraft. By the way, if you're wondering what the N's and M's stand for, that's midnight and noon local time for the GOES 14 and 15 satellites. And those are near the ionosphere layer, folks. That's where those measurements happen, near where we expect the F2 layer to be. Here's the data from Gong 2. There could be a sunspot on the far side of the sun here. You see that suspended green area. Otherwise, not a lot going on. Earth's field lines are solidly in the South Pole oriented portion of the current sheet. KP index up off the floor to 1. And let's do cosmic rays, as we haven't done them for a few days. And we've left links to this page here below the video. So if you want to monitor these yourself, feel free. Let us know if you see some anomalies. Send an email or perhaps put comments. We try to keep the comments super interactive here. Let's check out Apatity in Barentsburg. And there's Apatity. Downtrend actually over the past 2 days. And similar behavior at Barentsburg. Next, as we go around the world from east to west, actually Athens is farther east. There's Athens, Greece, Neutron monitor, fairly flatlined there over the past, really the past 30 days. There's Mexico City's 30 days of data. Nothing too exciting happening there. And here's Moscow's Neutron monitor returning some pretty wild spikes there. Highest values in the past 3 days showing up November 30th. And lastly, here's Oulu, Finland. Similar to Barentsburg and Apatity there. Here's DOMC Antarctica. At least showing more data over the past 30 days than it had been showing. That's a good thing. And there's DOMB Antarctica. Looks like it's not returning data for a while. Again, if you want to monitor these yourself, just click on the links below the video. See more or description or whatever it's been titled this hour. And look at a more solar data here, direct solar data that is. The GOES electron flux is just in normal levels here. And the relativistic electrons, the greater than 2 mega electron volt electrons, are just in a nominal range. And looking at the ionosphere here, we're seeing continued anomalies in the South Pacific, where it's charged at night. We also see discharge events on the daytime side there. See a big discharge there. Let's see, what time was that? Right around 5 UT, I think. Anyway, we're looking at 6 hours of data here. Last frame appears to be 9:15. Sudden discharge there at 3:45 UT, actually over the Pacific. So ionospheric anomalies over the Pacific Ocean have been continuing. Let's look at earthquakes. Again, we did see this 6 magnitude quake in the Aleutian Islands. We'll get to it. Can I click it? Can I click it? I can't click it. Anyway, we do see a couple deep quakes. There's a deep quake. 2.5 magnitude there at 166 kilometers depth. Here we see a very shallow quake at 1,300 meters above sea level. Once again, let's check out the location of that. We saw a quake directly under Rainier a few days ago. And this one looks like it's directly under a large mountain also. However, 1,300 meters above sea level, folks. The depth, negative 1.3 kilometers. And that's a typical sign of magmatic activity. All right, let's see what else we have here on the list. We'll just scroll up. Here's a deep quake in Japan, 4.4 magnitude, 156 kilometers depth. Here's this quake in the Aleutian Islands, Largest quake of the past 24. That one occurring out in the ocean, just south of the Bering Sea. I doubt there'd be a tsunami generated from that, although it was fairly close to the surface at about 25 kilometers, I believe. Let's see if it shows up on the list. And indeed it did. Anyway, no warning, advisory, watch or threat. Have you ever been in a wrestling match with a government website? Who ends up winning that wrestling match? Anyway, let's look at pressure maps here on windy.com. As there's a powerful low finally off the coast of the U.S. Let's see how quick it's going to move, if it moves at all. It looks like it's just growing in size as it stagnates just off the coast of New Jersey, really. Anyway, we'll let that advance for about 24 hours, and we'll get to the travel snarls momentarily. First, we'll look at volcanoes real quick. The list includes, for December 2nd, Mount Aso. Unknown cloud, don't fly over it with your ultralight John Denver style aircraft. Sanjiang-Api, flight level 8,000. Dakono, flight level 7,000. Popocatépetl, dissipated. Sabancaya, not identifiable. And Novatos de Chilean, intermittent emissions and explosions, 13,000 foot ash plume. Please don't pole vault Novatos de Chilean. Little downtick in volcanic activity there, folks. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. And there's where things will be in a week, approaching the next full moon. The December full moon. Please leave a comment if you know what it is. I have no idea. If you want to make yourself a sky map, check out in-the-sky.org. I think I'm using the all sky chart. But there's all kinds of different cool charts in there. You can see what's going on above your head. Now, yesterday we talked about Procyon, and we've been doing a daily star study. But today the daily star study comes at the end. So if you want to hear about Procyon, watch yesterday's video. We don't talk about it so much, but now this particular, there's Procyon. It's a binary system, otherwise known as Canis Minor. And there's where it is in the local group, the local stellar group, that is. Not to be confused with the local galactic group. And we see some minor outages here. Nothing too major. 38,000 is pretty major. Out there in Michigan. Shout out if you're watching from the Upper Peninsula. Again, I got hit with freezing rain yesterday, and man, oh man, is that scary. If you don't have carbide tires, you're not going to make it through. Did you know all your weather comes from space? Were you aware? That's why we cover, part of the reason why we cover space weather. I'll get into my origin story at a later time, folks. Nearly 8,000 flights delayed already and 921 canceled. Shout out to Mothra. Bad times for travel. Right at the end of the holiday weekend, expect delays. Expect delays of all sorts. Be patient, folks. Be patient. It'll all work out in the end. By the way, if you want to check traffic, and of course I'm not a big fan of Google, but if you go to Google Maps, maps.google.com, you bring up the layers and you click traffic, you will get this. And this is how you avoid getting stuck in traffic. One of the worst places you could possibly be in a storm. This is what causes entire roads to get shut down when people abandon their vehicles amidst snowdrifts. Later finding their vehicles smashed to the side of the road by snowplows, for instance. So there's the current scenario in the Northeast, and it's actually looking a little better than I thought. We've been reduced to only rain here where I'm located. But We'll get to the radar in a minute. And you see most of the lightning is out in the Atlantic as far as North American lightning. By the way, we see an interesting convergence line here over, actually a double convergence here over Florida. We're not going to get into it, as some folks are very interested in what's going to be going on above our heads, as, again, travel plans are being hit. I'm going to be driving into some places today that have had massive amounts of snow. And there's a scenario out there. Let's go north to show everybody where the main snow is located here. Getting some heavy snow around Ithaca, New York. And Binghamton. And Elmira. As well as in central PA. Man, oh man. I turned around yesterday instead of driving into a winter wonderland, and it was tough making it back to the lab, folks. I ended up driving home in a four-wheel drive vehicle. Anyway, snow continues to fall also in nearly all of New England, except northern Maine, being spared right now, actually. Also Idaho, Washington, Montana, Nevada, Utah, California. Geez, California getting hit. At least no power outages currently reported. There's a water vapor scenario, and thankfully that atmospheric river has been shifted off the coast quite promptly. However, there's still a rotating low and plenty of moisture to fuel more snow showers over the next significant period of time. Our winter snow advisory, winter weather advisory does not expire until tomorrow morning on December 3rd, I believe, as that situation is stagnating and cold air is being injected from Canada. And once again, here's what's going on over my head. This low is going to be in place for quite a while here, as the jet stream is going to have trouble moving this thing out. It's very powerful. And it looks like it's right over western Ohio right now. Here's the jet streams in the western world on nullschool.net. And I was going to wear snow goggles today in honor of everybody being snowed in and inundated. Please leave a comment if you're viewing our video from an airport or a bus station or something like that because you've been stranded. Hopefully everybody's travel plans are turning out okay. Here's the eastern world's jet streams. A little more consolidated over there in the northern hemisphere than on this side, where it's wavier than a sawtooth wave. By the way, please continue supporting the channel via Patreon, and thanks patrons. And if you aren't yet a Patreon patron, please consider becoming one. The true funding of the show, channels, the channel, the show, everything. And there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, folks. No stagnation going on here. Evolve or die is part of our ongoing mission and message. Now, we teased you earlier with Neutron star J185635-3754, and we will get to it, so bear with us. By the way, if you missed any content because of the holiday weekend, head to youtube.com/smAshomash or perhaps bitshoot.com/smAshomash. All the videos should be there. And there's yesterday's video featuring Procyon as the thumbnail. And you've caught me reading Robitaille's paper, 40 lines of evidence for liquid metallic hydrogen as a solar building block. Looking at the coronal holes section, and I'm not going to read it, I'm just going to say you should. And look for changes coming soon at smashomash.org. Right, SMASho staff? Also, look for the availabilities of these shirts. We're looking to set a price point of $25, although it might be lower depending on interest. So there's the design. It features the radio image of Cygnus A, massive radio galaxy, otherwise known as 3C405. And basically, we're just having fun with the naming conventions. Please leave a comment if the gradient on the font has caused a seizure. And welcome to the That Is Censored and That Is a Sinkhole, the vulgarity-free section where I nearly fall off the chair and attempt to get folks to differentiate between their you-know-what and a hole in the ground. First story we're talking about is U.S. life expectancy, which has dropped for the third straight year. Combination of lack of access to health care because the costs are so high, suicides, deaths of desperation where people just drink and drug themselves to death. I believe the U.S. is now ranked 65th in life expectancy, similar to countries such as Lebanon, Cuba, and Chile. Those are not very good statistics, as the U.S. spends more on healthcare than everybody else and does not end up with similar results. Now, I think one of the solutions to this is creating markets for healthcare. In other words, how much does an MRI cost? Well, if you start focusing on how much procedures cost, perhaps there'll be incentive to lower the cost of the procedures, right? An MRI is one of the most advanced ways to be able to tell what's going on, as it provides practically a 3D image of your entire body, if you like. And, that's one of the things that really needs to advance, as it can detect all sorts of different conditions, everything from just inflammation of an organ up to cancer. And nobody knows what the cost of anything is because they're expecting it to be covered by insurance. People are relying on employer sponsored insurance programs, and it's just a mess. What are the solutions entirely? I really don't have any idea, although I'm not going to get into politics. Although we do talk about whatever we want in the That Is Censored and That Is a Sinkhole section. So, additional evidence for a 17 mega electron volt mass particle seen in the radioactive decay of a different particle here. So a second piece of evidence here, totally unvetted, but we like to cover stories early. Possibility of a new force of nature, the X-17. So this is more interesting particle physics going on here. And I'm not the expert in particle physics, folks. Laboratory physics is not my specialty, but this new one is in helium-4 nuclei. The first one was beryllium, I believe. So that's interesting. Another finding of an unexpected anomaly in the 17 mega electron volt mass range. We left links to the article. That was the SciTech Daily one. Yes, I linked to SciTech Daily on purpose. Let's talk about neutron star RxJ185635-3754. Now, I've known about this since the late 90s. In 1999, when this was discovered. And, well, what does it all mean, folks? Well, let's just explain it in a nutshell. It's the closest neutron star to our solar system, and this is why we didn't cover a star in the local group. Now, it's located at, I don't know what the distance is, but in any case, it's got some proper motion that you may be interested in, and that's the main story about this object. We're going to call it a massive radio source. And there's the X-ray image of it. And I believe this was discovered due to occultation, as somebody was looking at a star or a galaxy, and they noticed something in the foreground, and they probably thought it was an asteroid. So they tried to track what they'd seen, and what they found is an object moving at 108 kilometers per second. Well, how much is that, you're asking? Well, that's 241,589 miles an hour. So what we're talking about here is a neutron star traveling at cometary speeds. So what does it all mean, folks? It all means astronomy, like most sciences, deeper you get into it, the more questions will arise. And we've left links to every one of these pages here. There are all kinds of studies of this, as again, it is the closest, quote, neutron star, end quote. So it's worth reading about RxJ 1605.3 plus 3249, as it is an interesting object, to say the least. So if you're worried about, excuse me, if you're worried about Nibiru, there are things a little bit scarier than brown dwarfs. Just a little bit spookier, as we assume that the magnetic field associated with this object is probably, what's the term, vast? Anyway, there are countless articles about the object, so check it out. And welcome to the Neo Renaissance, folks. As astrophysics gets rewritten, I mean, the motion of that neutron star is undoubtedly attributed to some sort of supernoval explosion or the combination of two black holes or something like that. And these are all based on gravitational accretion, lambda cold dark matter Big Bang models of the universe. So cheers. Thanks for tuning in, Smash Team. Thanks, everybody. We are featuring a 0 bonus features today. Please be safe out there. Don't get yourself in any situation you can't get yourself out of. Don't break anything you can't fix. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.